There is a vibration that deeply stimulates the third eye. Not a loud, external hum, but a subtle change in how your visual field resonates that can make the invisible begin to show itself. Imagine a curtain you've lived behind your whole life. The world looks clear on one side, but behind that curtain there are shapes and movements you never noticed. That vibration is a tiny shift in attention and ocular tone. It's the difference between staring at a single point and letting your vision breathe across a wider band. When that shift happens, the inner visual center, what many traditions call the third eye, tends to respond, and things that were previously filtered out of awareness can come into view. This is the claim, and it's what we'll explore together. The history, the mechanism, the exact practice you can try tonight, what people commonly report seeing, and the ethical boundaries you must keep. The idea isn't new. In the Nag Hammadi writings, including what we know as the Gospel of Mary, there are accounts suggesting that teachers attributed to Jesus showed select students ways to perceive beyond ordinary sight. These are Gnostic sources interpretations and teachings preserved outside the mainstream canon, and they speak in symbolic language about perception, the limits placed on human sight, and methods to open the inner eye. I mention that lineage not to declare a single historical truth, but to anchor this practice in a tradition that frames perception as something that can be trained and refined. If you prefer secular language, think of it as an older spiritual map for a practical perceptual skill. If you're coming from a faith background, note that this is an interpretive tradition, one lens, among many, for understanding the work of attention. Now ask yourself, what if some of the fear, pull, or emotional heaviness you carry isn't originally yours? What if parts of our environment operate on frequencies we simply do not register? In Gnostic accounts, these hidden operators are sometimes called archons, literally rulers, or gatekeepers, described as energetic intelligences that feed on certain human states. Another figure in that framework is the demiurge, a limiting force that sets boundaries around ordinary perception. For our purposes, use these terms as helpful metaphors. Archons as any energetic pattern or presence that covertly influences emotion, and the demiurge as the conceptual explanation for why much of that influence is rendered invisible by our perceptual system. Whether you accept the metaphysics fully or not, the practical observation stands. Our visual and attentional systems filter an enormous amount of input, and some influences stay hidden precisely because we are not tuned to receive them. Here's the problem in simple terms. The eye gathers data, but the brain interprets and filters. That combination produces a narrowed field of attention that favors certain wavelengths, certain types of motion, and a centered spot of clarity while ignoring the periphery. Central vision gives us high-resolution detail where we point our gaze. Peripheral vision trades detail for motion sensitivity and a wider register. Most training in our culture teaches us to fixate, read the screen, focus on the speaker, lock on to the subject. That pattern is efficient for many tasks, but it also narrows the band of perceptual resonance. Entities or energetic patterns that operate nearer the edges or on subtler frequencies of perception can remain invisible because the central filter removes them from conscious processing. The vibration I keep mentioning is a change in that resonance. When you loosen the central filter and broaden your visual tone, your perceptual system begins to register signals it previously dismissed. It's like retuning a radio from one station to a wider frequency range. You start to hear undertones you didn't know existed. Yet, we're not talking about physical vibrations measured by instruments. This is a phenomenological vibration, the felt resonance in your visual field and inner awareness. It's closely tied to the third eye language, that inner sight, associated metaphorically with the pineal region, responds when the eyes and attention shift in a certain way. Many spiritual traditions use the vocabulary of vibration because it captures the qualitative change. Vision feels a little more alive, edges shimmer, contrasts breathe. When you cultivate that tone, you don't force seeing. You create a receptive state where sight can widen and pick up on subtler patterns. So what is the precise technique? It's simple, repeatable, and intentionally gentle. I'll give you a step-by-step. Then we'll do a short, guided 40 to 60-second practice you can follow right now or later this evening. The method centers on what some teachers call a soft gaze, reframed here as a vibrational activation for the third eye. At first, the environment. Choose a quiet room with low, even light. Dusk is ideal because the light sits between clarity and shadow. Low artificial light works too. You want a neutral field of view, a wall, a simple curtain, or the middle distance of a room without clutter. Avoid flickering screens or strong direct sunlight. The point is not to create dramatic conditions, but to make a gentle, even canvas for your eyes. Second, posture. Sit comfortably on a chair or cushion with an upright, relaxed spine. Rest your hands in your lap. Allow your shoulders to drop. If you are comfortable, close your mouth and soften your jaw. The aim is to reduce muscular tension that can translate into ocular tension. Keep the head slightly tilted, neither rigid nor slumped. Third, the gaze. Relax the eyes and let them fall into a slightly defocused state. Don't close your eyes. Instead, let the center of your visual field be relaxed, like soft focus on a camera lens. Imagine allowing your gaze to expand as if you were opening the aperture to include the margins. Do not point the eyes toward any specific object. Rather, permit attention to inhabit the whole visual field. This is the soft gaze, neutral, unobtrusive, broad. Fourth, the attention. Move your attention to the periphery. You're not trying to identify anything at first. Simply notice the edges, the faint motion, the shimmer in the corners. If thoughts intrude, acknowledge them and return to the peripheral sense, without judgment. The quality of attention is curious and steady, not hype. Fifth, timing. Practice this for 7 to 10 minutes daily. Consistency matters more than duration short. Regular practice will do far more than a single long session. Many people report first glimpses within a week, though experiences vary widely. Treat that as anecdotal rather than guaranteed. Here is a short guided segment you can follow now. It is meant to establish the quality rather than to induce anything dramatic. Keep it gentle, or sit comfortably. Breathe slowly in through the nose, out through the mouth, 2 or 3 times, until you feel settled. Allow your eyes to relax. Soften the focus of your gaze, letting the center blur very slightly. Permit your attention to widen toward the corners of the room. Notice any peripheral movement or light without naming it. If a detail draws you, resist the urge to snap your gaze to it. Maintain the soft field. For the next 40 seconds, simply hold that attitude. Breath steady, gaze soft, attention wide. If emotions rise, breathe with them and return to the soft gaze. When the 40 seconds end, blink gently and notice how your inner visual space feels. That guided segment is illustrative. The full practice is longer and steady. Over 7 to 10 minutes, maintain the same soft gaze and peripheral openness. If you feel strange or disoriented at any point, pause. Close your eyes for a minute, breathe, and ground with a glass of water. If you have a history of dissociation, psychosis, or other serious mental health conditions, check with a mental health professional before experimenting with altered perceptual techniques. This practice is not a substitute for clinical care. Now, what do people commonly report when this subtle vibrational shift takes place? Accounts vary, but there is a pattern worth describing because it will help you know what to look for and how to respond. Many describe semi-transparent distortion shapes that look like smoke, shimmering static, or layers of movement overlapping the ordinary scene. Others see shadow-like figures that lack a sharp edge, as if someone pressed a soft stamp of shadow against a wall. Some perceive thin cord-like connections tying entities to corners, door frames, or to the felt energy around a person. Visuals may be brief and peripheral at first, glimpses at the corner of the eye, a flicker that dissolves when scrutinized directly. That dissolution is common. Most entities don't hold up under direct, narrow gaze. The trick is not to force a stare, but to sustain the soft, peripheral awareness that first registered them. Vignettes help make this concrete. In a dim hallway, someone practicing the soft gaze might notice a slow, smoke-like ripple pooling near the baseboard, an impression of movement that seems to withdraw when stepped toward. On public transit, several people report a sense of a low, roving shadow above the heads in a crowded car, concentrated where tension or agitation is high. At a family gathering, a practitioner might notice faint, thread-like chords at the threshold of the kitchen during a charged conversation, like lines that anchor certain emotional patterns to the room. These are not universal experiences and should not be construed as proof of a metaphysical taxonomy. They are descriptions of typical phenomenology reported by people exploring widened peripheral vision in low light. How do these experiences typically unfold in relation to the entities? Two dynamics are common. 1. The presence often withdraws or thins when met with steady, non-reactive awareness. That's the core practical effect. Visibility changes the dynamic. When a pattern that feeds on dysregulated emotional energy is observed, it often loses its hold because it no longer operates through stealth and projection. In Gnostic terms, illumination undermines the archon's ability to feed. 2. Some presences may attempt to distract, to elicit fear, or to provoke a fight-or-flight response. This is why steadiness and ethical restraint are crucial. You don't engage aggressively, you witness calmly. Observation is not the same as confrontation. Let's be clear about ethics and safety. First, do not use this technique to scan other people with the intent to label or publicly accuse them. Perceptual experiences are highly subjective. Misinterpretation can harm relationships. Second, never approach or attempt to remove anything in a way that invites physical confrontation or shaming. If your practice reveals something that concerns you about a loved one's well-being, respond with care. Prioritize conversation, boundaries, and professional help where appropriate. Third, respect differing beliefs. Some of your friends or family will interpret these phenomena spiritually. Others will prefer psychological or symbolic frames. You can hold your experience without insisting that others must agree. What about the claim that visibility stops energetic feeding? The idea here is not supernatural combat. It's informational. When energy that once operated as unconscious background influence becomes conscious, it loses its anonymous agency. Think of sitting in a dim room while someone whispers to you. If you know someone is whispering, the whisper loses its covert power. Similarly, when you bring clear, non-reactive attention to the periphery, you transform the field of interaction from being something that happens to you into something you notice and engage with responsibly. That shift alone often changes the emotional economy. Fear subsides into curiosity. Anxiety becomes manageable information, and patterns that previously directed behavior may loosen. Interpretation matters. You can accept a Gnostic framing archons and a demiurge limiting cytas, a mythic explanation that resonates with your experience. Or you can use a psychological reading, perceptual filtering, and attentional training reveals subconscious cues and external influences previously ignored. Both frames can coexist. The practical heart of the matter is training attention and cultivating a different ocular tone. Whether you call the phenomena archons energetic patterns or perceptual artifacts, the actionable skill remains the same, broadened. Softened vision changes what you can perceive and how you respond. If you try this practice, expect a range of outcomes. Some people notice nothing for several sessions, then suddenly catch a peripheral movement. Others experience emotional shifts, less reactivity, clearer boundaries without any clear visual content. A portion of practitioners report immediate visual phenomena in just a few days. Again, this is anecdotal and varies according to sensitivity, environment, and consistency of practice. Experiment patiently. Keep a short journal. Note time of day, light conditions, posture, and any visuals or emotional changes. This will help you detect patterns and ground your practice. A few practical tips to improve results without risking harm. Practice in low, steady light. Avoid the technique when you're extremely sleep-deprived or under heavy intoxication. Do it alone or with a trusted partner if you feel vulnerable. Limit attempts in public spaces where someone might misinterpret your behavior. If you begin to feel overwhelmed, panic dissociation, or intrusive thoughts, stop and ground immediately. Sit, drink water, contact a support person, or consult a mental health professional. This practice is about responsible awareness, not escapism or thrill-seeking. There is an ethical responsibility that comes with increased perception. Seeing carries moral weight. When you notice something, subtle and emotional pull, a recurrent pattern around a person, use that information to cultivate compassion, establish boundaries, and act with care. The intent is not to expose or shame, but to reclaim clarity so you can choose differently. The old tradition that frames this work as a protection taught the selected students, not as a tool for domination but as a means to cultivate discernment and preserve inner freedom. That lineage of intention is important if the practice is to remain healing rather than exploitative. Before we close, one practical reassurance: you will not break your vision by practicing soft gaze. You are simply exercising a different mode of attention. Like any muscle, perception responds to new uses. Start slow, be consistent, and treat each session as an experiment in noticing. If curiosity replaces fear, you're on the right path. If alarm arises, prioritize safety and grounding. Remember the original claim: the vibration that deeply stimulates the third eye is not magic in the sense of an instantaneous overhaul. It's a subtle recalibration of ocular resonance and attention. It opens a wider register, and in that widened register, some previously hidden patterns become visible. The technique I've described: a daily 7 to 10 minute soft gaze in low light, relaxed posture, peripheral attention, offers a practical route to that recalibration. Many report early results within days. Others take longer. None of this is guaranteed, and none of it is a substitute for medical or psychological care. If this message speaks to you and you want to try it, comment visible. That's all for now. Try the 10-minute soft gaze tonight. If you notice anything, share one short sentence in the comments about what changed. Brief anchor for others. If you found this helpful and want more guided practices and careful explanations like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit like. It helps us keep producing clear, responsible content. This practice is an invitation, a modest, disciplined shift in how you see. The vibration is subtle. The results, when they come, are often quietly profound. Approach with steadiness, curiosity, and compassion for yourself and for others, and use what you see to live freer, clearer, and more awake.